Think globally, act locally is a popular slogan, but what can we do locally? Is there something that people can take with them from tonight that you think is something they can do in their own lives that helps them address some of the questions that we've been talking about?
I think there are things we can all do. We talked a little bit earlier about the impact of the new media on democracies. We're consumers of that media, and people who want to make money in the media respond to our preferences. So if we stop clicking on rubbish and start clicking on quality, then it's going to put a corrective into the market, and I think the market needs that corrective. And I think, frankly, for our own sanity, I mean, we've spent sort of more than a decade now sort of glued to our phones. I think we're at a stage where we've got to say, well, that's been an interesting decade, but what about I leave the devices behind from time to time and just spend some time thinking deeply, joining with others who want to think deeply, and we find some solutions rather than clicking on the next thing on the phone. We can do both of those things, and if we did both of those things, I do think we'd find some ways of building common grounds in our community around more action, more celebration of localism, more difference that we can make. And I think the renewal of our democracies is actually going to start at that local community level. I think you can already see that in the US, that there are some communities that are finding a way of putting the national divisions to one side and just getting on with it, with the project of renewal and making sure that no one's left behind and regaining civic trust. And if we can do that in local communities, then we can demonstrate that behaviour to the national body politic and take it up.
I love the point. I love all the points, but I love the point about technology, both about the freeing oneself of the gadgets and the distractions, which are really. I've gone back to teaching, and I've banned laptops from the classroom for the first time in my career, and phones, and yay! I'm really making a difference in this world. But it's amazing. The difference, I mean, the difference in the quality of conversation. I found this in government. We weren't allowed to bring our gadgets into the situation room. We were always dealing with multiple crises at once, and yet there was this weird calm. It was windowless, right? So they never want you to know quite how much time is passing as you're debating what to do about this or that. But the intensity of focus, the way people, by and large, kind of listened to each other, because nobody was thinking about another crisis. They were really trying to stay focused on these very weighty issues, and in the classroom it's the same. But your other point about, why is Mark Zuckerberg making changes at Facebook? Is it because he suddenly realized that things weren't really working in just the way he planned? No! It's because of the public battering he is taking from the media, from amazing investigative work that has looked at how these platforms were abused. Every single revelation out of Facebook has come because somebody has uncovered it before Facebook has admitted it. And that, is so maddening as a citizen, and maybe Facebook, going forward, can elevate the health of our democracy alongside making yet more money or having yet more people. Do you know Facebook has more adherents now than Christianity? Facebook don't get me going on Facebook. Facebook at the height of its wealth, which was last year, mercifully, not at this moment, but at the height of its wealth, its worth was greater than 167 countries out of 193 in the UN. So it could be like the 100 and, it could be whatever that would do your math. But basically, the top 35 member states of the UN. I think it was below Sweden and above someone else. Regulation, oversight, more transparency. This has as much weight as most of the countries in the world. Christianity, think about it. Anyway. So to agree, the last thing I'd say is I had a little motto with my team, because we would get, the way you all feel, I'm sure many of you, is how I feel now as a citizen as well, but I also felt in government, which is the problems are so big and we're just little people, trying to do our best. And I used to call it the incommensurability problem, that what I can do is so incommensurate to climate change or 67 million people being displaced. So we had this great expression that I got from a wonderful book called Switch, which I urge you to read. It's by two social psychologists, brilliant book about how to make social change. And they have this concept which is shrink the change. Shrink the change. And it's a version of what I said at the beginning, which is you see climate change, there's got to be some big solution. And maybe at one point there will be. God knows it feels like there needs to be. But what our part is small, and so by definition, it feels incommensurate. It feels like it's too little, and so we get in a doom loop and we say, okay, well, what good will it do? The refugee problem was one that I focused on, and it was, okay, governments just aren't taking refugees at the pace they need to keep up with the flow from these conflicts, and wars are just not ending. So what can we do? In our own communities now as citizens, there are still refugees coming to this country, or refugees who have come just in the last couple years. Many of them don't speak English. This is a small thing. Again, not everybody's interested in the refugee issue or the immigration issue. But when people arrive in our communities, they don't have linens, they don't have a car, they don't have a way to get to job interviews, they don't know where to get health care. Obamacare is very confusing, alas, in a way, even to this day, less confusing than it used to be. They need help. So none of us can solve as citizens the big refugee problem or the refugee crisis, but there's always something we can do. And so how to take the big thing and turn it into just a little capsule of change that may not change the world, but it will change someone's world. I think that's our challenge.